This prison is so terrifying that even the devil would fear it. Imagine a place so terrifying that hardened criminals, people who have committed the most violent act imaginable, break down and weep at the mere mention of its name. A facility so extreme that it makes maximum security prison around the world looks like luxury resort in comparison. A place where hope doesn't just die, it's systematically murdered every single day. This isn't fiction. This isn't some made-up stories. This is a real prison that exists right now in El Salvador. Welcome to El Salvador's Terrorism Confinement Center, popularly known as cecot, a prison so extreme, so psychologically devastating that it has fundamentally changed how we think about punishment, rehabilitation, and human rights. By the end of this video, you will understand why this facility has sparked international controversy, why some call it a necessary evil, and why others consider it a crime against humanity. But fair warning, what you are about to hear will disturb you. This is the story of a prison designed not just to punish, but completely destroy the human spirit. And whether you think that's justice or torture might depend on what this inmate did to end up here. Before we dive into this nightmare, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because stories this intense and controversial are exactly what we explore on this channel. To understand why El Salvador built what many consider to be a world's most terrifying prison, we need to understand the crisis that forced their hand and made this possible. For decades, this small Central American nation was held hostage by two of the most violent criminal organizations on earth, MS-13 and Barrio 18. These weren't just street gangs, they were sophisticated criminal enterprise that controlled entire territories, ran parallel governments, and turned daily lives into a living nightmare for ordinary citizens. At the height of the crisis, El Salvador had the highest murder rate in the world, with over 100 homicides per 100,000 people. To put that in perspective, that's more than 10 times higher than cities like Detroit or Chicago, which are largely considered extremely dangerous. The gang didn't just kill, they terrorized. They controlled public transportation, forcing drivers to pay extortion fees or facing execution. They recruit children as young as 8 years old, turning schools into hunting grounds for new members. They dismembered victims and left body parts in public places as warning. They controlled entire neighborhoods where police and government officials couldn't enter without risking their lives. Businesses were forced to pay war tax to operate. Families were extorted for protection money they couldn't afford. Women and girls were sexually assaulted with impunity. The gangs had turned El Salvador into a failed state where their word was law and government authority meant nothing. Traditional approaches to dealing with these criminals has failed spectacularly. Regular prisons became gang headquarters where leaders continued running their operation from behind bars. They had access to cell phones, received visits from subordinates, and used their time in prison to expand their networks and plan new crime. Some gang leaders live better in prison than they had in the street, enjoying special privileges and maintaining their power through corruption and intimidation. The situation became so desperate that hundreds of thousands of Salvadorians fled their homeland, creating the refugee crisis that has dominated immigration debate in North America for years. These weren't economic migrants seeking better opportunities. These were families running for their lives from gang violence that made their neighborhood uninhabitable. This is crazy. By 2022, President Nayib Bukele had seen enough. His government declared a state of emergency and launched an unprecedented crackdown on gang activities. But they knew the traditional imprisonment wouldn't be enough. They needed something that would break the gang's powers and send a message so terrifying that it would deter future recruitment. That's when they decided to build the Terrorism Confinement Center, popularly known as cecot, a facility designed not just to contain dangerous criminals, but to psychologically destroy them so completely that they would never again pose a threat to society. The Terrorism Confinement Center wasn't built like a normal prison. It was engineered like a psychological weapon. Every aspect of its design was carefully calculated to maximize suffering and break down human resistance. The architects didn't just study penology and security. They studied torture techniques, sensory deprivation research, and psychological warfare method. The facility can hold 40,000 inmates, making it one of the largest prisons in the world. But size isn't what makes it terrifying. It's the deliberate cruelty built into every square inch of the structure. The cells are specifically designed to be too small for comfort but too large to feel cozy. They are made entirely of concrete concrete and steel with no soft surface, no color, and no decoration of any kind. The light system is perhaps the most psychologically devastating feature. The light never turns off, not for a second, not for 1 minute, not ever. This isn't an oversight or a cost-saving measure. It's a deliberate torture technique. Constant illumination disrupts circadian rhythm, making normal sleep impossible and gradually driving inmates towards madness, of which it did. Sleep deprivation is recognized as one of the most effective forms of psychological torture because it breaks down cognitive function, emotional regulation, and mental resilience. Inmates at the Terrorism Confinement Center experience this torture every single day with no escape and no relief. Many report hallucination within weeks of arrival. The temperature is another weapon. The facility is kept deliberately cold, not cold enough to cause immediate physical harm, but cold enough to create constant discomfort. Inmates are given minimal clothing and no blanket, forcing them to huddle together for warmth or shiver alone in their cells. This constant physical discomfort compounds the psychological stress and makes rest even more difficult. Noise control is used as another form of torture. Sometimes the facility is kept in complete silence, amplifying every small sound and creating an oppressive atmosphere of isolation. Other times, loud, jarring sounds are played at unpredictable intervals, making it impossible for inmates to adjust or find any sense of routine or normalcy. The architects also eliminated any connection to the outside world. There is no windows. Inmates never see sunlight, never see the sky, and have no sense of time passing. They don't know if it's day or night, summer or winter. The temporal disorientation is a classic technique used to break down psychological resistance and create a sense of hopelessness. Even basic human needs are weaponized. Food is provided at irregular intervals, enough to survive but not enough to feel satisfied. Water is available but limited, creating constant low-level anxiety about basic survival needs. Life inside this prison follows a routine designed to maximize psychological damage while maintaining the appearance of basic human rights compliance. Every aspect of daily existence has been stripped up of dignity, comfort, and hope. Inmates wake up, if they have managed to sleep at all, to the same harsh artificial lighting that never dims. There is no morning routine, no sense of a new day beginning, just the continuation of the same endless fluorescent nightmare. They are allowed only 30 minutes a day to exercise. The famous 30 minutes of exercise is the cruelest joke in the entire system. After spending 23 hours in cramped cells under artificial lighting and on steels, inmates are led to a slightly larger concrete area that's still indoors, still under same harsh lights, still without any glimpse of any natural world. This isn't exercise in any meaningful sense. It's just a different location for standing or walking in circles while under constant surveillance. Hygiene facilities are designed to maximize humiliation. Showers are communal with no privacy and limited time. Toilet facilities are shared among dozens of inmates with no doors or partitions. These conditions ain't just uncomfortable, they are deliberately dehumanizing, designed to break down the sense of personal dignity that's essential to psychological health. Medical care is minimal and often delayed. While inmates receive basic treatment for serious conditions, there is no attention paid to mental health. In fact, the deterioration of mental health appears to be an intended feature rather than an unfortunate side effect. Perhaps most devastating of all of them is the complete absence of any meaningful activity. There are no books, no educational program, no work assignments, no television, no music, nothing to occupy their mind or provide any sense of purpose or progression. Inmates are left alone with their own thoughts for 23.5 hours a day, with nothing to do but replay their past actions and contemplate their hopeless future. What makes the Terrorism Confinement Center truly terrifying isn't just the physical condition, it's the systematic psychological warfare being waged against every inmate. The constant lighting serves multiple psychological purposes beyond just sleep deprivation. It eliminates the natural rhythm of the day and night that humans has evolved to depend on for psychological stability. This disruption of circadian rhythm doesn't just affect sleep, it affects hormone production, mood regulation, and cognitive function. Over time, inmates lose their sense of time entirely, which contributes to feeling of hopelessness and unreality. Inmates are prevented from forming meaningful relationships or support networks. They can see other inmates but rather forbidden from communicating in ways that might provide comfort or solidarity. The guards themselves are trained to be emotionally detached and minimally responsive. They don't engage in conversation, don't show empathy or hospitality. They simply exist as impersonal force force that control every aspect of inmate life. This dehumanization works both ways, making it easier for guards to maintain their harsh conditions while reinforcing to inmates that they are no longer considered fully human. The psychological warfare being waged inside the Terrorism Confinement Center has produced exactly the results it was designed to achieve, and those results have shocked over 100 observers of criminal justice system around the world. Within months of the facility's opening, reports began emerging of dramatic psychological breakdown among inmates. Gang members who had previously been deviant and violent were found catatonic in their cells. Others developed severe mental illness symptoms, including hallucination, paranoid delusions, and complete breakdown from reality. Some inmates began self-harming or attempting suicide as their only means of exercising any control over their circumstances. The transformation has been so complete that many former gang leaders have reportedly begged guards to transfer them to regular maximum security prison, offering information about their criminal organization in exchange for relief from the condition. Others have written letters to their families expressing remorse for their crimes and pleading for any form of human contact or comfort. But most importantly, the mere existence of the facility has created a deterrent effect that extends far beyond its walls. Gang recruitment in El Salvador has reportedly dropped dramatically as word spread about what happened to those who continued criminal activities. The facility has become a boogeyman that parents used to warn their children away from gang involvement, and former gang members cite it as a primary reason for leaving criminal organizations. However, the international reaction has been overwhelmingly negative. Human rights organizations around the world have condemned the facility as a violation of basic human dignity and international law, describing them as potentially consulting torture under international legal definitions. They have pointed out that while the inmate may have committed terrible crimes, the systematic psychological torture being employed goes beyond punishment and enters the realm of crime against humanity. Religious leaders have also spoken out, arguing that the facility violates basic principles of human dignity that transcend criminal behavior. Even those who support harsh punishment for violent criminals have questioned whether systematic psychological torture can ever be morally justified regardless of the crime committed. The existence of Terrorism Confinement Center forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about justice, punishment, and human rights that have no easy answers. On one hand are the victims of gang violence, families who have lost loved ones, communities that have been terrorized, and a nation that was held hostage by criminal organizations for decades. These gang members weren't petty criminals or drug users who got caught up in the system. They were leaders and enforcers of organizations that murdered thousands of innocent people, recruited children into lives of violence, and turned entire communities into war zones. They showed no mercy to their victims, no remorse for their actions, no willingness to change their behavior when given opportunity for rehabilitation. From this perspective, the extreme conditions at the Terrorism Confinement Center represent a form of proportional justice. If someone has taken dozens of lives, destroyed hundreds of families, and show complete disregard for human suffering, do they deserve the same considerations we would give to other prisoners? I don't think so. Some argue that the gang members forfeited their right to human treatment when they choose to engage in systematic violence against innocent civilians. The good thing here is El Salvador's murder rate has dropped dramatically since the crackdown began, and many citizens report feeling safe in their communities for the first time in decades. The facility continues to operate today, housing thousands of gang members under conditions that would have been unthinkable in most developed nations just a few years ago. Whether it represents the future of how society deals with extreme violence or a temporary aberration that will eventually be recognized as a historic mistake remains to be seen. So I'm asking you, what's your take on this? Is there a level of violence that justifies systematic psychological torture, or there are some lines that should never be crossed regardless of the crime committed? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If this story interests you and you want to see more of this, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, comment, and also share this video. See you in the next video. I remain Joshua Bejo. Bye for now.